Hello everyone, this is MSY's Research Notes. Today my time is also limited because tomorrow I will have a morning class and now I'm still studying in the teaching building, and unfortunately in spring I'm a little bit allergic to some flowers, some pollens, so I'm not feeling quite well today. But I still think I have the responsibility to recall the essays that I have read recently. Last time I have already introduced the abstract and the introduction part of a new essay, which is about the dynamic feature of foreign language enjoyment. And that essay was written by Professor Dewell and his daughter Olivia Dewell. And today I'll move to the literature review part, and I will also analyze them and retell them paragraph by paragraph. And as I am retelling, you can see a very clear logic flow and the advanced writing techniques that the authors used. So, firstly is about the paragraph 1. And in this paragraph, the author firstly introduced the definition of FLCA, foreign language classroom anxiety, which is the core construct or one of the core constructs in the previous in the present study. So in this paragraph, three different kind of definitions are listed, but they are in a sequence, in a logic sequence. The first is the definition from the founder or the mother of this concept, which is Professor Horowitz. Professor Horowitz, known as the mother of foreign language classroom anxiety, is the person who proposed this concept and also developed the way of measurement, which is the foreign language anxiety scale in previous years. So firstly, the author quoted the sentence written by Professor Horowitz, and this is a kind of direct definition. And second, the author quoted Horowitz's explanation of FLCA, because definition sometimes is a little bit abstract. And then the author also used the explanation given by the same person to explain what FLCA means. And after those two definitions, which is the combination of one direct definition and another explanation, the author moved to another preeminent scholar who also gave a definition or a kind of brief introduction of FLCA, and that author was Professor McIntyre, which is also the professor that we have mentioned previously for a lot of times. And so basically, what is FLCA? Well, FLCA is a kind of multifaceted concept, and learners who experience FLCA have the trait of feeling state of anxiety or state anxiety. Well, in my previous videos, I have introduced what is trait and what is state emotion. So here I won't introduce them again. And if you're interested in that, you can probably watch my previous videos. And third, about the Professor McIntyre's definition, he said anxiety is influenced by several variables which are listed in the essays, but I won't cover all of them here. So anxiety is influenced by those variables, and anxiety has both internal and social dimensions. So as you can see here, this kind of definition is not merely about introducing FLCA, but it serves as a way which lay a foundation for their essays, because in their essays they discussed different variables which are related to FLCA and FLE. So here, from the definition, I think the author has already hinted what they will write about in their following essays or following paragraphs. So since anxiety is influenced by different variables, therefore they are eligible to conduct further experiments. So this is not merely a kind of introduction or definition of FLCA, but a kind of theoretical background or theoretical foundation for their following paragraphs. So this is the paragraph 1, but we still need to introduce who is Professor Horowitz, which is who is one of the most preeminent scholars in the field of second language acquisition. And Professor Horowitz is best known for conceptualizing FLA or FLCA and developing the measurement tool for assessing it. So in the 1980s, anxiety is often mixed with general trait anxiety, and research generally failed to establish consistent link between anxiety and accomplishment. To measure FLCA, Horowitz and her colleagues designed a foreign language classroom anxiety scale, which is a kind of 5-point Likert scale. So the 5-point Likert scale, you can also see this kind of scale in foreign language enjoyment scale. Therefore, the patterns of those questionnaires or scales are identical. And then we come to paragraph 2. And paragraph 2 mainly introduced the interference of the negative emotions, which move from the definition to a kind of further dimension of this concept. So at the very beginning, Olivia put the main topic of this paragraph. So, quote, the idea that negative emotions interfere with L2 development is not new. So after reading this sentence, you can know that this paragraph is all about the interference of FLCA on learners, for example, on their accomplishments or other like variables. So this part is about the intervention. So I think this part can really teach me that when I am writing my personal essays, I think I still, especially in the literature review part, which generally do not have so many, so many subtitles, not subtitles or just kind of those minor titles. Generally, I need to use the topic sentence at the very beginning to tell the readers what this kind of paragraph is really about. So I think this essay really did a good job. And so in this paragraph, the author mainly introduced two different types, or not two different types, but two authors who mentioned the interference of FLCA on learners' different variables. The first is Professor Krashen, and the second is Professor Schumann. Yes, Schumann. Professor Krashen and Professor Schumann. So firstly, let me introduce the first interference. I think probably today I would just finish the two interference of the literature review because I only have 10 minutes left because it's very late and I need to go back to the dormitory. So the first interference is about Professor Krashen's effective filter hypothesis. So what is the effective filter hypothesis? It basically means that every learner has an effective filter that determines the degree to which the acquirer is open. For example, if a learner experiences negative emotions, then the filter would then this kind of emotions will bring the filter up, and if they experience positive emotions, then this kind of emotions will bring the filter down. So basically it means that if you have a positive emotion, then you're more likely, or you have like a stronger potential to acquire the second language, or you have a, let's say, you will have a better learning result or learning outcome. So this is the effective filter hypothesis. Well, but Professor Krashen is, well, best known for his input model, which is this thing, or input hypothesis, well, which is this thing that I will introduce here. Well, Professor Krashen, well, he is an American linguist who has reshaped the field of second language acquisition, and he is best known for developing the input hypothesis, which is a set of 5 interconnected hypotheses about how humans acquire second languages. And I will then introduce the 5 hypotheses that Professor Krashen has proposed. And the previous one, which is about the effective filter hypothesis, is one of them. So the first is acquisition learning hypothesis. Acquisition learning hypothesis means, well, it includes 2 different kind of keywords or concepts. The first is acquisition, the second is learning. Acquisition is a kind of subconscious, natural process of which is similar to how children learn their first language through meaningful interaction with the target language, so without explicit focus on rules. So based on this definition, you can see that acquisition, this term, is quite different from learning, because learning is a conscious process of studying explicit language rules. So one is subconscious or unconscious, and the other is conscious, or just like you enter a school and you learn some knowledge, this kind of process is conscious, and that belongs to the category of learning instead of acquisition. So this is the acquisition and learning hypothesis. I think this is the first hypothesis because this, tells us the differences between those 2 concepts, which also lay a foundation for other hypotheses. Because if you don't know the differences about those 2 different words, then you will feel a little bit difficult to understand other hypotheses. And the second is about the input hypothesis. Well, in this hypothesis, which is also the core hypothesis of those 5 different hypotheses, in this one, Professor Krashen proposed that, well, people acquire a second language only when we get comprehensible input. So what is comprehensible input? Well, comprehensible input means I plus 1. I is the current language level, and 1 means the next small step. So you can just understand this in a kind of in this way. Well, it's just like based on your current stage, and you make a small step further, which means I plus 1. Well, so the critical points, there are 2 critical points. The first is understanding meaning is far more important than memorizing rules, because Professor Krashen believed that we acquire a second language only when we get comprehensible input. So the comprehensible input is important because you need to understand it instead of merely memorizing those rules. I think I agree with that, because when I was learning about English grammars, even though I have to confess that my English grammar is now, I think, relatively not that good, I think, because it's about memorizing rules. It's not about getting a comprehensive input. So Professor Krashen's idea is that getting a comprehensible input or understanding the meaning is more important than memorizing the rules, or just memorizing a kind of rules or vocabularies which ignore the understanding process. So this is the first critical point. And the second is the output. Well, many people believe that the more you speak or the more you talk to another foreign person or foreign people, you will certainly improve your English expression, or at least you can speak like a native speaker. Well, according to Professor Krashen, this kind of idea is totally wrong, because output such as speaking or writing doesn't directly help you acquire a language. They only help you indirectly. For example, what does indirectly mean? It means, for example, when you speak to other persons or when you write something down, it actually doesn't finish, because you will get feedback. For example, other people talk back to you, or you further refine your article or your writings, and the process of getting feedback is really a process of improvement. So this is how speaking and writing can help you indirectly. And the actual thing that can help you to improve your language acquisition is the input part instead of the output. Well, I think this really makes sense, because as you can, probably notice that even though I record my my academic research or my notes, every day, you'll still notice that probably my expression is also limited, and the words and vocabularies and ways of expressions are confined in a kind of scale, because I don't have any feedback from other persons or from other colleagues or scholars or teachers. I'm just in a process of output, because I don't have time to further revise or improve my speaking right now at this point, because I'm now still writing this essay or those essays. Not only one essay, but in the future, especially when I am applying to some foreign schools, foreign universities, or higher education institutions, when I graduate from here in China, before my interview or before my application, I will certainly practice my speaking and other writing techniques, or for example, so at that time I will certainly get some feedback from, for example, from ChatGPT or my tutors. So if you really want to learn or acquire a second language, then you definitely need to focus on the input part. Well, this is very, very, I'm very agreeable with that. And the third is the monitor hypothesis. So this hypothesis explains the role of learned language. So conscious knowledge of roles can only monitor, which means edit or correct a language output, and it cannot generate an output. I think I can only, agree with this to some extent, or probably I haven't grasped the full meaning of this hypothesis, because Professor Krashen believed that a learned language can only monitor your output and cannot generate your output. So basically, so effective monitoring requires three conditions, and this is his definition. And based on this definition, he explained why this kind of learned language can only serve as a kind of function to edit or correct your output. So the first is about the sufficient time, and the second is focus on form, and the third is knowledge of the role. Therefore, based on those three definitions, it is obvious that monitor is most effective in formal writing context rather than spontaneous speaking, because you need to have time, which is the first definition of monitoring, and you need to focus on form, which is the second definition. Well, third is about the knowledge of the roles, which is not, a kind of decisive role here, which distinguish writing from spontaneous speaking. Well, but I think Professor Krashen's idea really makes sense. But I still, think that probably our learned language will also contribute to the output of I mean, I think let's just have an extreme example because, for example, if you let's say, I mean, if you only learn about grammar rules, well, let me think. Well, I just think probably learn the language can also help us to have a better output. Like if you have a very broad scale of vocabularies, then you theoretically will have a better kind of expression compared with other people. But right now, I think this is probably just my personal understanding. I'm also not very sure about this part. Well, we'll move to the next hypothesis, which is about the natural order hypothesis. So Professor Krashen proposed that language is learned or acquired in a predictable universal order, regardless of the learner's age, nationalities, or institutions that they study in. For example, grammatical morphemes such as ing are typically acquired before ed, which is the past tense, by learners worldwide. For this hypothesis, I'm also not very sure about this. But I still cannot think about an example, because because for me, I couldn't remember whether I firstly learned about the ing form or the ed form. So probably I'll just leave it here and know what is natural order hypothesis. And the last hypothesis is the one that we have mentioned above, which is the the effective filter hypothesis. So this is what Professor Krashen's idea and what Professor Krashen has proposed. Well, I think some of the hypotheses really make sense, but I don't dare to say I agree with them. I agree with all of them. And indeed, there are, I think, criticism in the field of academia to challenge Professor Krashen's idea as well, just like what I do. But probably it's our fault because we probably haven't grasped all those complexities or different dimensions of this kind of hypothesis. Therefore, we haven't formed a comprehensive understanding of Professor Krashen's idea. So if I could still have more time, then I would do some further research on this part, which is, I think, is a very, very important hypothesis for us to acquire. And well, basically this is today, and it's very late right now. And tomorrow, probably I'll move to Professor Schumann's accumulation hypothesis. And today we have already finished two different paragraphs of this essay. And also we introduced who Professor Horowitz and Professor Krashen is. And tomorrow we'll move to Professor Schumann's acculturation hypothesis, which is also a very, very interesting one. And his hypothesis also belong to the intervention of foreign language enjoyment, this broad category which the author has designed. So what this is today, and well, tomorrow probably my time is also limited because I have many courses tomorrow. And I will also make some further progress about my essays. And tomorrow there will be a course which is about the intercultural communication, and I am required to write another essay in this course. And right now I plan to write an essay about the meta-analysis, but I'm not quite sure because I haven't started, and I know that meta-analysis is, very, say, is very labor demanding. So probably I think I'll further revise that. But if I could have time, what generally I don't have much time. But if I could, I think I would do a meta-analysis because this is a new methodology for me. Well, it's time to go, but I'm now standing by the window and I notice that it's raining outside. So how am I supposed to get back to the dormitory? And right now I don't have an umbrella. Well, but it's time to go now. Good luck to me, and see you tomorrow. This is MSY's Research Notes. See you tomorrow. Good night.